Why should you be interested in improving your writing? How important is it to write well as a military intelligence professional? You already know spoken grammar, but when you write, people will judge your message more critically. They also can't ask questions or use your body language to understand your meaning. Your writing skills are going to be directly related to your credibility. This brief video on the parts of speech will be a quick introduction to basic technical vocabulary that will allow us to begin a discussion of grammar in writing. More videos will build on this one to give you the tools to write with clarity and ease, whether you're writing an email, a college paper, or a brief for your commander. The parts of speech describe how the words function in a sentence. Something important to remember, a point that can be a little confusing, is that an individual word can function as more than one part of speech when used in different circumstances. A sentence is much like a skeleton. The parts of speech, the bones. The verb is the action of the sentence. Nouns are the people, place, or thing the sentence is about. Adjectives describe nouns. Adverbs describe verbs, other adverbs, or adjectives. Prepositions are always connected to nouns. Conjunctions connect phrases. And interjections are standalone words of emphasis. We'll look at examples of each of these. A really good way to figure out the parts of speech in a sentence is to look for the subject and the verb. The verb is the first thing you want to find. A verb is a word which describes an action, doing something, or a state, being something. Verbs can take different forms to express past and future. For example, he shoots well is present tense, and he shot poorly is past tense. An example of an action verb is Captain Marshall runs marathons. Here is a state of being verb. Captain Marshall is a marathon runner. Sometimes there is a main verb and one or more helping verbs. She can lead. Lead is the main verb. Can is the helping verb. Here's a hint. The helping verb comes before the verb. An interesting example of how language changes and how a part of speech can change its function is the proper noun Google. Now we use it as a verb too, as in, let's Google that. Once you find the verb, it is easy to find the subject by asking who or what performed the verb. This will be a noun, pronoun, or noun phrase. As you saw in can lead, there might be more than one verb, and sometimes there can be more than one subject too. A noun is a naming word. It names a person, place, animal, or thing. Let's look at the following sentence. The captain will be relocating to the northwest. A proper noun is a noun that refers to a unique or specific noun. Proper nouns are always capitalized. In this case, northwest is capitalized because it refers to a specific noun. You might notice that captain is not capitalized. That is because we don't have a specific name for her. Directions are a little tricky as they are sometimes capitalized and sometimes not. In this example, the captain will be driving northwest for one day and then east. You can see that the directions are not a specific location or area. When directions can be thought of as related to points on a compass, they are called cardinal directions and are not capitalized. The important thing to know is that the subject will always be a noun or a noun phrase, which is a group of words acting as a kind of noun unit. Here is an interesting tip. Any request or command, such as stop or hurry, has the understood subject you, because if we ask who is to stop or walk quickly, the answer must be you. An adjective is a word that describes a noun. In other words, it modifies it. You will frequently see the word modify when you are reading about grammar. It is another way of saying that the modifying word or words are telling you information about another word or words. Since the adjective is connected to a noun, let's first find the nouns. The exhausted squad returned to their comfortable beds after 3 days outside the wire. Now let's identify the words that describe the nouns. The exhausted squad returned to their comfortable beds after 3 days outside the wire. There will not necessarily be an adjective with every noun. as you will notice with the word wire. An adverb describes or modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb, but never a noun. This is because, as I just explained, adjectives are the part of speech that modify nouns. To decide if a word is an adverb, pick out the nouns and pronouns if applicable, and verbs. Then eliminate the nouns. The verb, the word describing the action, is underlined here. Yesterday, the captain finally talked to her again, but awkwardly. Another way to decide whether something is an adverb is to ask yourself if it answers questions such as when, where, how, why, under what conditions, or to what degree. Adverbs often end in ly. The adverbs are answering the questions of when and how. So your adverbs are yesterday, finally, again, and awkwardly. Now you can see which words are functioning as adverbs. A pronoun is used instead of a noun to avoid repeating the noun. For example, I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. Let's look at an example so you can see what I mean. Sergeant First Class Martinez knew he would be given the Bronze Star. Sergeant First Class Martinez is the noun, a proper noun. If you didn't have pronouns, you would have to say Sergeant First Class Martinez knew Sergeant First Class Martinez would be awarded the Bronze Star. A pronoun usually substitutes for a specific noun, which is called its antecedent. In this sentence, the antecedent for the pronoun he is Sergeant First Class Martinez. It is also a personal pronoun, a pronoun which refers to a specific person. There are other types of pronouns. Possessive pronouns indicate ownership. Here is an example. When he received his Bronze Star, he was proud. His is a possessive pronoun. Reflexive pronouns emphasize another noun or pronoun, as in, he was proud of himself. Relative pronouns connect a clause or phrase to a noun or pronoun. Their function is to help describe the noun. The most common ones are which, who or whom, and that. Here is an example. Honor is the thing that mattered to him most. That is the relative pronoun. Just a little tip. We often need to decide whether to use which or that. If you can leave the clause out and still have the sentence make sense, use which. A conjunction joins two words, phrases, or sentences together. Coordinating conjunctions connect two independent clauses. An independent clause is a standalone idea or thought. And, but, or, nor, for, so, and yet are all coordinating conjunctions. Here is an example. The exhausted squad returned to comfortable beds after 3 days outside the wire, and then they collapsed. Here, you could use a period after wire and start the next sentence with and. While you do not need to have the conjunction and, it makes the ideas flow better. Subordinating conjunctions, words such as because, although, while, and since, connect clauses that are not equal. Here's an example. Because the exhausted squad was outside the wire for 3 days, they collapsed when they returned to their comfortable beds. If you placed a period after days, you would be left with a sentence fragment, meaning a fragment of a complete thought. If you said, because the exhausted squad was outside the wire for 3 days, you would know that you missed part of the information, like what question this statement answered. A preposition is a word placed before a noun or pronoun to form a phrase. Let's look at this sentence again. The exhausted squad returned to comfortable beds after 3 days outside the wire. A helpful thing to remember is that a preposition is always part of a prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase modifies another word in the sentence and almost always functions as an adjective or as an adverb. Some examples are to, outside, inside, after, by, with, about, and until. So let's identify the nouns first. The exhausted squad returned to comfortable beds after 3 days outside the wire. Now let's look for the prepositional phrases and these key words. The exhausted squad returned to comfortable beds after 3 days outside the wire. The prepositional phrases underlined are acting as adverbs since they are answering the questions of where, when, and where. There is no preposition before squad. Can you guess what kind of word exhausted is? Right, it is an adjective. Interjections are words which express emotion or surprise, and they are usually followed by exclamation marks. Hey! Wow! No! Yeah! An interjection is an unusual kind of word because it often stands alone. Wow! Just think, after this feature film, you have learned the parts of speech. Bravo! Just a final reminder. The parts of speech describe how the words function in a sentence's meaning, and an individual word can function as more than one part of speech depending on its context. See you next time.